What's up, guys? I'm here with Israel. I've been in Elche, Spain for the past couple days. We're at the HQ right now, but yeah, thanks for having me. It's been an awesome time.
Our pleasure.
What is your official title with Mondraker, so I can introduce you?
I don't even know. I wear many hats here. I mean, I'm not fully responsible for anything, but yeah, sure. But I worked involved in product development and in many regards. I mean, suspension testing, shock tunings, how the bike performs. And I cover whole Mondraker range. I mean, all the bikes and all the e-bikes. Also from the beginning in the new concepts of the future bikes that we will be working on or currently working. Geometry, kinematics, and testing, which is the great thing of being here.
Yep. I want to get into a lot of that stuff, talk about geometry, bike balance, forward geometry, which Mondraker has pioneered. But I think before we get into all that, I think it's worth diving into a little bit more of your background. How did you arrive at Mondraker doing all this cool bike stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question because I worked as a journalist before joining Mondraker. I worked 15 years plus as a bike journalist here in Spain in 2 different magazines, and that was what jumped me into working here. I mean, I know all the people behind the brand since day one. And I was also somehow involved with the brand because we had really close relationship with these guys here. And I also tried to somehow help them with all the developments that Mondraker were carrying out, trying to help them as much as I could. And there was one time that I quit working as a journalist, and I applied, I talked to Miguel, Mondraker's CEO, and well, I started working here for the last 15 years almost.
You've seen quite the path with Mondraker, and you've been around for a lot of cool developments, and I think maybe that's a good place to start, is like Mondraker, geometry is something I've really been paying attention to, and I think Mondraker is somewhat like responsible for where modern bikes are, the first to push like some bigger reaches and like the first iterations of forward geometry. So I'm kind of curious, like how did those ideas start developing? I mean, this is 26-inch days, bikes are super short. So how did these ideas kind of start to come into the picture?
Well, it comes way before forward geometry was introduced. We were already working with Cesar Rojo and with the zero suspension design. As he was the one who developed the zero suspension design for Mondraker back in 2006, 2007, and we kept working with Cesar on future developments and weird ideas like how did we came with forward geometry. And Cesar had the weird idea of he was riding a Foxy in size medium, and he welded like an XL top tube or front triangle. I mean, from XL on a medium-sized frame. So size extra large was in fact like 60 millimeter, almost 2 inches and a bit more longer on reach. So we started using a super short stem in the beginning, and that's why everything started. That's how everything started somehow, because Cesar wanted to experience something different and with a longer front ends, and eventually made a big difference. And we started like wondering what could happen if we released like a new series of bikes with this risky geometry, also with super short 10 millimeter stems. But Cesar started racing that bike with that weird geometry and proved that it has some benefits. So yeah, it all ended up being like the first ever forward geometry models from 2012, 2013 model year. And for 2014, we switched to a more standard 30 millimeter stem, which is the same length and same style of stem we use on all of our bikes today. So it's been a standard, and as you said, Mondraker was the pioneering brand to develop such a forward-thinking geometry that has today become the standard for mountain bike.
I've been really messing with stems lately, you know, going super short, you know, the Be More bike stem, going behind the axis, like it's something I'm interested in, like the whole steering geometry. So when you guys were experimenting with the 10 millimeter stem, like what's kind of the learning around that? What were the benefits, and ultimately like what had you guys go to like the 30, which is what you guys have?
Yeah, the inspiration also came from BMX, from motocross, like a more direct stem, and we were so surprised on the direct handling that we were having, and maybe somehow a bit too direct. I mean, too.
Is it direct? You mean sensitive?
Yeah, yes. sensitive to your hand movements.
Yes.
Right, and instead of riding like a normal 70 or 80 millimeter stem.
Especially that time. It's like the norm now is 40, 50. It's like that time 60, 70 was
over.
Yeah.
Way over. That's what it was. And even 90 and even 100 on large or extra large sizes. So to really get used to riding a super short stem was not really easy, but the benefits were huge. And the steeper, the better. You had way more control. But at the same time, on flat turns, we were losing the front end a lot because we were unable to put the proper weight on the front tire. And that comes, again, the proper weight balance is what matters the most. And it's like the for us, it's like the main, I'd say, motto that we follow when developing or updating our geometries today. I mean, weight balance is what matters the most, no matter what you are doing. And if you're changing anything, I mean, bottom bracket height alters everything, or chainstay length, we can discuss for hours. But I mean, so everything matters. So the thing is that geometry proved to be super extreme and too much of a compromise on that kind of, you know, like flat turns was really a big compromise. So we end up having like a standard stem, the shortest as possible we could use, the 30 millimeter one, and that's become the norm for us for the last 12 years.
Yep. And I think it's probably a good time to just dive into the weight bias things. We've spent probably a few hours at this point talking about this stuff, and this is what, I mean, the reason I'm here is because I liked the Crafty, and my main praise, you know, the whole bike is good, but the weight bias and the balance and the grip I have on the front tire is what I appreciate most about it. So at what point, I mean, this has obviously been a focus for a while, like where did the learning and the understanding start coming in with the weight bias, and like how, I guess when developing a bike, like what do you guys, are you able to quantify it at a certain point? Like,
right, yeah. So this is the new bike that we've just launched this year. We have been already making this bike for 10 years now. So it's the 10th anniversary of the Crafty. So, and we had forward geometry before introducing the Crafty. So we have a lot of experience of what works with what doesn't. And this is the evolution from the previous Crafty carbon we introduced back in 2020. So for the last 5 years, we've been thinking and also tinkering somehow with different chainstay lengths, different front end lengths, and overall geometry to somehow get the best riding experience and the proper weight balance. In answering to your question, one guy from our engineering department, who is Pablo Guillem, he's really involved with the Mondraker factory racing downhill team. He's been here for the last 2 years, probably more, and he has a really broad knowledge of everything related to kinematics or geometry. With him, we started wondering and thinking how we could improve current geometry from the previous Crafty carbon. So we end up measuring and weighing the front and rear bias weight on medium and large sizes, and trying to somehow get a benchmark that the relationship between the front and rear weight that should work for all the 5 new models we were about to release for the new offering, which is this one here. So yeah, it ended up being a different chainstay length for the different sizes, and that was a really well understanding on how the bike rides and what the proper geometry needs to be for the application.
In your perspective, is the chainstay the best way to do that? Does it have the greatest effect on that weight bias?
No, also bottom bracket height makes a lot of importance there, because Pablo told us, I don't remember now, but lowering bottom bracket by 5 millimeters makes a change like, I don't know, 50% over the and like improving the, let's say, the stability or the planted feeling of the bike, and just by lowering the BB, so makes a great effect on how the planted feeling you have on the bike, and so with that's why we lowered the BBs by 5 millimeters also with the latest geometry, because it played a good effect, added stability compared to the higher BB we had on the previous model. But everything is related. I mean, if you change anything, you have to think of any other changes that are applied or that are related to any change that you make. So for this bike, we slacken the BB, but we slacken the head-tube angle, lower the BB, but also we offer we have a flip chip now that not only changes the geometry but also changes how the bike rides. So this was really important, not to offer an aggressive geometry change, because that was altering too much the performance of the bike or the experience when you ride the bike, and also it could alter too much the kinematics, and we didn't want to go there. I mean, and and 2 different chainstay lengths. So the large and extra large has a longer chainstay length that you experienced here, and I think you were very impressed.
Yeah, I rode, so the Crafty I rode for the e-bike shootout was a medium large, and then I rode the large here to experiment, and it was quite good. And I could probably ride both sizes. Like, I'm in the middle where I think they both ride good, but the large, I can do everything. It's just a less dynamic experience. Like, I think if you're depending on the trails, if you were going for all-out speed, I think most trails the large would be better, but also you miss out on, I think, some sensations just not being as dynamic to manipulate the bike. You're more in a single position, which honestly on the trails we were riding were pretty sketchy and fast. I felt pretty safe.
I couldn't keep up with him. He's super fast guy.
Yeah, and talked about it a lot. But the front end grip, like, I think that's the thing on both sizes. Like, usually I have been, like, if people would have asked me, like, for most bikes, do I size up or size down? I usually say size down, just because most bikes suffer from a worse weight bias in the larger sizes, and then you're having to make a sacrifice for your bigger wheelbase. But in the case of that bike, I think accounted for in the package, where it's like you can go to a bigger size and you're getting more wheelbase, but you still have front end grip. So I think you're able to make a better size decision because you're not giving up a huge thing in one area.
Our engineer Pablo best advice is also size down. So the same suggestion that you're explaining based on your experience. same concern for him. I mean, he always recommends sizing down with our new bike. And in my experience, I'm really happy riding the medium large.
Yep.
And I've also been riding lately the medium, but I feel a little bit too short, you know, and the extra front center length,
yep.
I find it beneficial.
Yep.
Especially going those speeds that we were carrying yesterday and riding super fast.
Yeah. And I think also what helps with, you know, the medium large of 475 reach, which would be maybe somewhat small for me. I'm 6'1", maybe 185 centimeters. But again, the rear end adds wheelbase to the package.
Right.
So the window in which I can be in is a little bigger, and like, I think people get really hung up on reaches. You know, it's a part of the equation for sure.
Right.
But I think what mainly contributes to the overall feeling of the size of the bike is the wheelbase.
Yeah.
So the Crafty and the medium large 475 maybe slightly short, but the wheelbase is significant enough to make me feel safe and more in between the wheels. And I guess that's the feeling that's exacerbated on the bigger size. It's just more in between the wheels.
We've been doing our shortest chainstay length is probably longer than any other brand's offerings. And we've been doing this same length for 6 years now. I mean, and we really love it. And now we also added an extra longer one for the larger sizes. But and as you experienced yesterday, not even have benefits for going down and placing more weight on the front tire just by physics, but also the climbing traction is unreal, and this is really, really great. I mean, for climbing technical stuff,
especially for an e-bike, like that's the thing that has me scratching my head on the short chainstays too. It's like e-bike. I mean, half the fun is just climbing up stupid shit. And
sure, as we did yesterday.
Yeah. And on the large, I got up some pretty hairy stuff. Maybe this is just like a basic question, but like on a ground level, like where do you see the advantage and disadvantage of going like shorter or longer on the rear end?
Well, it's also related to the front center and front triangle and all the other measurements of the bike. I mean, but on a medium large size, what's the difference on riding the standard, let's say short 455 length or the long 465, which we were riding for months here before committing to one or the other.
Okay.
So the longer one has benefits, going faster, like more planted feeling, pleasure ride as well, like more supple off the top even, because the longer rear end affects also how supple the suspension feels off the top, just by small, but you can really feel it. And also like on really flatter turns, it's easier. You're placing more wheel on the front tire just by being
standing there.
Standing. And also climbing is an amazing experience because you can climb almost anywhere if you really push your pedals and commit. It's unbelievable how great the bike climbs. But at the same time, the bike also feels a bit more sluggish to somehow turn. It feels like slower somehow on tight turns, and I will say it's less agile. The feeling that you get when you're turning, and because of that feeling, and which it's not really a huge difference from one to the other, we decided to commit to the shorter option, which is already long for the standards, and to try to get, because we were also getting really great stability and the uphill progress, everything. But we were increasing like the agility, the maneuverability of the bike with a shorter option. So that's why we expect the small, medium, and medium large with the shorter one, and the large and extra large with the longer one.
I feel like the point of diminishing returns is just much longer than what is normal right now.
Right. Yeah.
Like 445 to 455, I feel like is you gain so much and you lose so little.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about maybe a medium large
Right.
type bike.
Right.
And then you start to make a bigger step into the advantages of it, but you start to lose a little bit more on 465. That makes sense.
We also experienced the other way around. I mean, Luis, the head of product here at Mondraker, he's a taller guy than you, and he rides a large and really fits perfect on the bike. And he was also testing the shorter chainstay. And just to figure out the differences. And instantly he said, okay, I find the differences, I feel the bike more agile, but overall it's like day and night riding the longer option. And so that's why
easy. Well, cool. I think that's enough chainstay talk for now. Yeah, geometry is something I've obviously spent a lot of time trying to understand. The next thing I'm really trying to understand is kinematics. So what's kind of been your learning and journey around understanding kinematics, and like how does that apply to the latest generation of bikes?
Yeah, so coming from the previous model, the previous Crafty model, we'd like to have a good overall performance feeling from the bike. So if you take a look to the curves of the kinematics, the leverage rate, it's perfectly curved with a 24 progression rate, which is, we believe, it's a nice progression and steady progression. And you could also ride the standard shock or even a coil shock on any of our frames. And with a pretty standard anti-rise, so very flat anti-rise curve, so the brake doesn't influence much or as less as possible the suspension, and with slightly lower anti-squat figures compared to where we were coming, and because with the increased torques on the motor and a higher anti-rise was stiffening the suspension under load too much, was like extending the suspension too much under load. So with the increased 100 Nm torque, now with the latest Bosch evolution and using a slightly lower curve for the anti-squat figures, made the suspension way better, more supple and more capable at the same time, without that effect, like that stiffening effect when you're riding on EMTB or EMTB Plus or Turbo. So that was the goal, and that's the main difference. So lowering the anti-squat curve and trying to get like a proper leverage ratio to have like a good dynamic feeling of the rear suspension. We've also been working with suspension manufacturers such as Fox this year, and this is a 2026 model year, and we have already applied some improvements on the newer tune on the 2026 rear shocks compared to the last year's 2025. So we now offer a slightly broader rebound range compared to the one we were offering last year, and a slightly more progression towards the end of the travel with a 0.2 spacer inside of the shock, whereas last year we offered no spacer. So trying to get like a slightly more progressive towards the end, because if you're riding the low position, the low position, the flip chip, the leverage curve flattens a bit. Not too much, but as much as needed or needing ideally a 0.2 spacer or maybe 5 psi more if you are riding the low position, because it is affecting also the kinematics somehow, even for the better. lowering the anti-squat a bit, also a touch, and also increasing chainstay length by 1 millimeter. Probably that's not much, but it is affecting also kinematics somehow, but for the better. I mean, not much. So barely you couldn't probably barely notice, but it is affecting. So we applied some changes on the rear shock to trying to somehow make a better performing rear suspension.
You guys have been developing the Zero suspension for quite a while. So where does that suspension system have its advantage? How have you guys developed that into a package that you guys are?
Yeah, so since the very beginning, since day one, since Zero suspension was conceived, the probably one of the biggest benefits of the suspension layout is that the shock is being compressed from both sides. And this is what also makes the suspension so supple and, let's say, friction-free on some regard compared to other suspension designs, and also having the rear shock on a really low and bottom position, where it matters the most, because the more concentrated the mass is, the better for the handling of the bike. But especially what makes this rear suspension different from the others is one thing: how the suspension works with the shock placed on the bottom position and on being compressed from both sides, where we applied the pivot positions. But this is the latest evolution from the Zero suspension layout, which we call updated Zero suspension, which is somehow make the rear suspension more compact than the one we were using before. So before, on the previous Crafty generation, we were using a different layout with a longer stroke and longer shock. And now we're using a shorter stroke and shorter shock, so with a slightly higher ratio as well, but to get a slightly that has more sensitive feeling, more capable feeling, and I will not say our system is better than any others in the market. At least it is different, and we keep the same suspension layout throughout the range, the different Mondraker range models, from the F-Podium cross country to the Summum. And yeah, that's what also makes our bikes different, and we believe also better performing somehow, at least on our standards.
It's also able to accomplish this with like a solid rear triangle. So does that play into what you guys are looking for from like frame flex perspective? And yeah, how that's something you do some testing with?
Yeah, the one misconception, which is, or what many people have, is that the stiffer the better.
Yeah.
And for us, it's the other way around. I mean, the flexier the better, but the control flex. I mean, we get rid of, or we try to get rid of too much stiffness in everything. I mean, not just the rear ends, but especially now talking on the rear end. I do prefer the more flexy rear triangle, rear swing arm feeling compared to the carbon one, because even the carbon is very compliant, because we were also testing different layups up until the one we decided for production. But the alloy one has a very muted feeling and flexes a bit and somehow helps you track better or corner better.
Yeah.
And that was something that you probably don't expect until you ride the bike. And yes, well, that's what it is. Yeah. I can't really explain any more details, but I feel the bike like more easier to handle. To maneuver with the alloy rear end, and somehow corners better, and to me it's my choice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with your testing, like you test shock tunes, frames, geometry, all these things. Like this is an example, I guess, where you have a feeling but you can't say why, you know? Yeah. Like, has it taken a while for you to feel confidence in your feedback, like on the bikes?
Yeah. There's never a perfect anything.
Yeah.
So what you have to learn also is trying to get the best balance of anything you're testing, and the best compromise. So it's really a great experience having the chance, even for me as a bike enthusiast somehow, or bike rider, just having the chance to test different front triangle layups, different alloy or carbon swing arms, and also different tunes, and everything combined makes different outcomes. So that's the great things also of bike designing, and how you end up realizing how much the performance of the bike could change if you choose one thing or the other. I mean, we also tested this bike as a mullet option, which is
maybe
that's interesting because some dealers and riders were requesting also this kind of bike being mullet, or the option as to be able to be ridden as mullet. And we understand that it makes total sense, but after testing with a dedicated swing arm, well, we tested different rear ends in aluminum, because we were able to make different lengths and different layouts of the rear faster with aluminum. And after testing, we realized that for 99% of the end consumers and for the best experience, we decided to stick with 2929 for the faster feeling, the best performing feeling down and up. Mm-hmm. So that's the choice, and that's why we decided to commit with 2929. And then we have the new level, which is mullet. And mullet only, because we consider that for anything above 160, 150, mullet makes total sense. I mean, a longer travel bike makes more sense being mullet.
Why do you think that is? Like
the intended use, especially on our level, which is a way more aggressive bike, full aluminum, coil-sprung rear shocks, and more aggressive geometry, is more suitable. Or the goal is to have like the best performing prowess on the downhills. Yeah. So that's why this mullet is the only choice, the only possible choice there. And even though it might feel a bit slower riding flatter tracks or the trails around Mondraker area, for instance, where the Crafty is more suitable bike, and we believe that for really downhill, best performing bike for downhill is mullet is the option.
It's good, yeah. And I guess so I rode the level today, and I guess that also translates into the geo. So I think that like the weight bias. So what's the weight bias theory on the level?
That's a good question, because on the level, we are keeping a different relationship from the one we spec here on the Crafty. On the level, we are also offering 5 different sizes and 2 different chainstay lengths, but a way shorter chainstay length compared to these standards. So yesterday you were riding the large size, which is 465 millimeter rear end, and today you were riding the medium large level, which is 445. Okay. So 20 millimeters shorter. But tell me your experience.
Basically, is a more rearward weight bias. Mm-hmm. Like the flat corners, like not as confident.
Right.
But then I don't know, and like also the mullet, I feel is more flickable in the traditional sense. The bike is like shorter and more maneuverable from like a wheelbase perspective, right. Mm-hmm. But it has more travel and feels like a bigger bike from like a chassis perspective. So it was like an interesting mix.
Yeah, it's definitely dedicated to be ridden on a really
Steeps.
yeah, and that's where the bike really shines.
Yeah.
And that's why we committed with a slightly shorter chainstay lengths compared to these standards, but at the same time as short as the same figures we were using on the Dune lightweight e-bike. So that's where it comes from, and then adding like a 10 millimeter longer option for the larger sizes. Yeah, here's the level is very popular, at least in Europe, because when someone doesn't know which bikes they should be buying, well, for sure, Crafty is the best overall for 99% of the end consumers. But for the ones coming from moto background or really want like the most reliable option to really point and shoot, that's the best option, the level.
And I guess like right now, what is exciting to you in the product development world? Like, what are you working on? What are you testing? Like, where do you think some exciting stuff is happening for you?
Yeah, well, at this time of the year, we are currently fine-tuning 2026 models that some of the new lineup still have not been introduced yet. So I'm in the process of testing suspension tunes, especially to somehow make better, or let's say better performing rear suspension out of the new models that are about to arrive in a few months. And I have to say that in about 3 weeks we will receive a new prototype from a bike that's coming out for next spring. It's really exciting, and but I didn't have the chance to start riding it yet.
Okay.
So as soon as the bike arrives, and I will start testing that bike, and I'm really, well, everybody here really looking forward to testing that future model that will arrive in a few weeks, and it will be probably we will release it by sea order springtime next year.
Next year. Like say in the next 5 years. I said this years ago because I thought bikes were pretty good, but like bikes now, I think are in a really good spot.
Right,
like,
right.
Where do you see like the next 5 years of product development going? Like everyone's coming out with new stuff, so like what's like the next frontier? Do you think?
I think it's really difficult to try to look into the future or somehow predict what might be arriving or coming, and I don't believe it will. Nothing really crazy or completely new development will arrive. I mean, but just better performing bikes, and I see more e-bikes worldwide than today. We've seen that in Europe for the last 10 years, where countries like Germany or Austria, for instance, I will say like 80 to 90% of the sales are e-bikes now, which as crazy as it sounds, and but I can see like the return somehow of somehow the free ride motto or trend somehow, because for the ones tired of the downhill race models, or the ones really tired of enduro, kind of lightweight enduro race bikes, like the happy medium should be something like that. I mean, long travel bike, reliable, and so much fun to ride. So mullet, long travel option, I think that's part of what should come or be a standard on future years, and also more and more e-bikes. I mean, different platforms, types, different
because that's true. Like the downhill race bike has like pushed further and further into its own category,
right?
And then the guy who just wants to like hit jumps at the bike park,
right?
Like he ends up buying an enduro bike, but maybe it's not actually the best, what he wants, you know?
Yeah, that's right.
Like, so I don't know.
Yeah. And for us, with our own Mondraker factory race team on the downhill scene, and we've been racing the World Cup for so long, for almost for the last 18 years, as a title sponsor or owning our own downhill team, like the last couple of years. We embraced all the technology that is involved on the Summum downhill race bike. Under the umbrella of the Summum is everything else for us.
Yeah, it comes from the downhill bike. Yeah.
Everything we learn out of all the testing that we make on all the technologies involved there on the downhill scene is what also the Crafty also inherits some of that technology that we've been learning throughout the years there. So that's also key also for our prestigious position in the market somehow as a brand.
I assume you've like played with a lot of different linkages and different kinematic things. So in my quest to understand them better, like from your perspective, we can just maybe go through a couple of them. Anti-rise, like where to go to, like the extreme of high and extreme of low, like where do you gain and lose in those two scenarios?
Yeah, I mean, our standards are around 100%. We try to be like there. And what also Pablo always suggests, that not crossing the 100% up or down during the stroke of the total stroke of the anti-rise curve. So trying to maintain a flatter turn as possible, over or lower 100%. And in this case, we're over 100%, but really like 102 or so. So pretty much
quite neutral.
Yeah, neutral.
And then progression-wise, this is like not a super progressive bike. I mean, it's 24. I feel like is a very like middle of the road number.
Yeah.
Like where, obviously, there's bikes that are much higher than that. Like going to a super progressive bike, like what do you gain and lose in that scenario, do you think?
It all depends on the suspension layout, on the suspension travel, on the application.
Okay. Yeah.
We could think of an F-Podium cross-country bike has, let's say, more linear feeling, because if it was so progressive, you will probably weren't able to get full travel. And with a more linear stroke, that's the result of trying to get the anti-squat or the anti-rise that we are looking for. But the progression there is around 13-14%, which is, well, many other suspension designs are more linear, but for our standards, it's linear enough. So more linear will have to, you will have to start using some tokens inside the rear shock and compromise some other areas. And on the Summum, for instance, we try not to be over 30%. So over 30%, we believe it will be way too much, and will compromise the ending stroke will be super progressive. So it will be very difficult to get a good performing rear suspension, especially on the mid stroke, where you're riding, I would say, 80 or 90% of the time, which is from sag position to the ending 1/3 of the ending stroke. So the more controlled mid stroke that you have, the better. So we try to avoid a really very progressive curve in the end, because otherwise you will have to start using way more damping for the rebound, or compromise the performance or the capability of the rear suspension with more damping on the shock. So again, it's a matter of fine tuning or find the best balance. So, but again, over 30%, it's too much, or will be too much for us.
Compromise.
So level is around 25%.
Yeah.
And yeah, so those are the figures we really like and the most.
Thanks for nerding out with me. Thanks for putting in the work to get me out here and spending time with me these last few days.
Thanks so much, and I hope you come again and visit us next year, or I don't know, really soon.
Of course, if you keep letting me ride sweet bikes out here,
sure.
I'll keep coming.
we were really honored to have you here. We've been talking for months now, and everybody here was really stoked to see you here and having you around. So for us, it's been a great experience also sharing these days with you.
Yeah, thank you. It's I don't know, I genuinely enjoy riding the bikes. So it's good to see where they're made and the people behind them. So thanks for the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, sweet. Oh, nice one.
Yeah, I guess so.